first of all, super excited to see you all over here. I have a quick request. I'm going to make the same request that you typically see from a movie theater, right? Please turn off your cell phones, and it would be awesome to get a little bit of crowd work. I'm going to ask you a few quick questions, just in the spirit of what Sriram was doing. He's doing a great job. How many of you here have actually? How many of you here use ChatGPT today? All right, most of your hands are up. Great. How many of you pay for ChatGPT on a monthly basis? All right, 2 hands went up. So here's the thing. I asked the same question about 12 months ago in a very different setting. When I asked them how many of them use ChatGPT, about half the hands went up. So clearly, a lot more of you are using it today, right? That's fantastic. But you're not paying for it just yet. There's a reason behind that, and I'll come back to that in a second. Let me ask you another question. How many of you are actually building using AI today? Show of hands. About 25%. Okay. Here's an interesting thought exercise. If about 1/4 of you are using AI to build something today, when we have this AI Symposium next year, Daisy, when we do this next year, let's do the count. I will bet 1 year of my salary, 1 year of my salary. They pay me a good amount of money, people. So 1 year's worth of my salary that all of your hands are going to go up. It's not going to be 1/4. It's going to be 100% of you, because every application is going to be an AI-powered application, right? Now let me ask you one last question. How many of you are using an AI-powered coding tool inside of your company? Show of hands. All right, it's a little more than that. It's about 1/3 at this point in time. If you're not using an AI-powered coding tool today, I guarantee you, the rest of you all, please go home, fire up one of these AI coding tools, because you're going to be shocked. If you have, if you've done any kind of coding in your college, in your high school, you're going to be shocked at how good it is. And if you don't do this today, you're going to miss out completely, because you're either going to be AI forward or you're going to get left behind. And the only way to get yourself using some of these tools, having an instinct, having an intuition for this, is if you get your hands on it. That's when your teams are going to use it. That's when you're going to use it. So please take a few moments to do it. If there's one thing you walk away with today, is that know that you're going to have to get your hands dirty and try these tools out, because it's going to give you a very, very unique perspective. Because a lot of what I'm going to talk about here today is going to be what happens when that wave becomes a reality for you all, right? Because if you think about what's going on, you heard Tim talk about this, you heard Arun talk about this, and Nikhil as well, right? Everybody's talking about, we're already starting to see that shift happen. We're seeing this happen, back in California. That's where I'm from. It's been a long time since I've actually come back to India. It's about 12 years. Lots have changed. Lots of things have changed. And India is moving incredibly fast on a lot of different dimensions, right? And it's very obvious when I come here and see that. But I'll tell you one thing that's already happening, stateside. The thing that's happening is you're seeing the adoption of AI start to spike up. OpenAI has over 500 million users, weekly active users, that are using ChatGPT. You folks are obviously contributing to it, right? You all raised your hands. What we're about to see is an even bigger shift, right? Because there's a new wave of transformation that's happening. We've been using a lot of these chatbots to be able to do our day-to-day things, right? If you take a look at what OpenAI provides you with, is a chat interface. You go out there and you start doing things. But very insidiously, what OpenAI has done is it's awesome, right? That same chat interface now has a tiny button at the bottom called Deep Research. How many of you here have used the Deep Research button? All right, about 5 hands went up. The rest of you that are using ChatGPT, go try this out. The Deep Research is one of the first agents that ChatGPT is launched. When you click on that button and you ask it to go find something for you, find some information for you, it automatically uses the browser that's built into ChatGPT to be able to go find results for you and synthesize that systematically. We're going to start to see a lot of agents pop up, right? What do agents do? Let's talk about this, right? Number one, agents are powered by these large language models, right? Agents have some degree of autonomy. Agents have memory, and agents can use tools. This is a big deal. If you have seen that movie, called Jurassic Park, there's this big moment that happens when the velociraptor goes and starts opening a door handle, right? It's really scary, a dinosaur that can open doors. That's pretty scary. It's a predator, it's an apex predator. I don't mean to scare you here, but when AI can start using tools, you should have that same Pavlovian reaction. Wait a minute, you've got robots that can start using tools. It's an awesome thing, by the way. It's not quite as scary. You need to make sure that you secure it, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But it's a really cool thing when agents can open doors, can use tools, can actually do tasks and take them to completion. That's really what's happening with this inflection point, from chatbots to agents. You're going to start to see lots and lots of them, right? But along with that, what's going to happen is if you're going to have lots of these agents, you're going to start to see another shift happen. I'm sure you've heard about a lot of vendors coming in and talking to you about AI ops, right? And I'm sure AI ops means different things for different people here. But one thing to keep in mind is that you're using AI to be able to simplify our operations. That's sort of the thematic approach of what we mean by AI ops. With agentic ops, you're going to see something that is at the next level, right? You're going to have agents take these tasks to completion. You're not going to have to sit down and tell the software to be able to go out and do something. It's going to do things for you. Now, let's define what agentic ops is. Let's take a few seconds to be able to talk about it, right? There are 3 core tenets of agentic ops. The first one is that you need to start bringing data across different domains into the agents for the agents to be able to perform a task for you. Today, if you think about what happens when you have to troubleshoot something, here in the audience, has anybody done troubleshooting of anything at all? Like I know that this is a practitioner audience. I've got 2 hands going up here. The rest of you all, have you ever tried any troubleshooting? No? I'll give you an example of troubleshooting. Take for instance, your parents or your grandparents call up and say your iPad's not working. We're the first people to pick up the phone, right? Almost always you get those requests. Your kids are saying, hey, the Wi-Fi doesn't work on your phone, and they can't play their games. That's troubleshooting. You all do some level of troubleshooting almost on a daily basis, day-to-day basis. With the IT systems, these troubleshooting things become extremely hard, right? You don't know if it's the access point that's the problem, if you're having a problem with a network outage. You don't know if the device is not able to connect for whatever reason. You have to make sure that you're looking at information across different disparate sources to be able to understand what's really going on. Cross-domain is a really important thing. The next core tenet is a multiplayer. It's a multiplayer game. Troubleshooting in itself is not a single-player sport, right? Sometimes the networking person has to call the security admin. The security admin has to speak to somebody else on the compute side. The app person is going to have to get involved if you're seeing some packet losses or an outage in the application itself. Almost always, you have multiplayer folks coming together to be able to solve a particular issue. So agentic ops has to unlock the ability for humans and agents to work together to be able to solve a problem. So it's fundamentally multiplayer in nature. The third thing that's a core tenet is that you have to make sure that the model that you're using to be able to power your agentic ops is purpose-built for a particular type of, a particular domain, right? If you ask ChatGPT to be able to go out and give you a recipe, it does a phenomenal job. It breaks it down, it gives you all the recipes. But a ChatGPT does not have an understanding of some proprietary data that you might have. You can provide different ways of making it, getting information to it from a context window, from a RAG architecture. But the model itself is not aware of how to use proprietary data to be able to do certain things. And that's why you need to build custom models, purpose-built models, that can do that with a high degree of precision. Now, these are the 3 core tenets for agentic ops, right? At Cisco, what we did was we went ahead and we systematically started realizing each one of these things. For the purpose-built model, we launched a deep network model, which is trained on 40 years of proprietary data that Cisco has in terms of being able to troubleshoot networks. It is actually so good that it can pass the CCIE exam with room to spare. How many of you here are CCIE holders, certificate holders? Any of these Cisco certificate holders? I've got 1 gentleman, 2, 3. All right. Imagine this. I know you worked really hard to be able to pass those tests. You now have a sidekick called the deep network model that you can use to be able to help you debug and troubleshoot. If you didn't have a CCIE, great, you can still use the model. It helps you get there, right? The interesting thing is it performs almost, when we put the slide deck together, it performed 10% better. We've launched it about 4 weeks ago to all of the CCIEs. If you're a CCIE, you get to use the model for free. Just in the past few weeks, we've been learning at a massive rate, and that model's already started performing much better. It's almost at 20% better than any of the public models that are available in answering questions about troubleshooting, in answering questions about how do you do specific tasks. This is the reason why you need a purpose-built model. Now, when you take this purpose-built model and you plug it in to different parts of the product, you can now use it to do some really interesting things. Let me give you a quick example. We announced something called the AI Canvas. Now, the AI Canvas is a way to be able to bring the troubleshooting, the debugging, the cross-domain, the multiplayer use cases all into a single place and be able to do some of these things a lot easier. Now, instead of showing you some slides, I want to show you a demo, but I'm curious, how many of you want to see a demo of this, a live demo of this? Quick show of hands. All right, the crowd just woke up. Wonderful. All right, I'm going to risk this. I'm going to try this out. If it doesn't work, don't blame me. All right, let's see. I'm going to switch to the demo if you give me a quick second. Thank you. All right. Listen, folks, I only do this for applause. If it works, you applaud. If it doesn't work, you all can go grab a cup of chai. Let's see. I'm going to start to mirror this. All right, give me 1 second. I think. Okay. All right, is it showing up here? Let's see. Can you put my screen back up? Nope. There it is. Okay, give me 1 second. I'm going to do this one more time. I want to try and extend. Sorry, folks. Clearly, we have some hiccups here. It actually shifted it to that screen. It ended up mirroring the wrong screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, I think we're in business. All right, so what you're about to see, if you can put my screen back up. Thank you. So what you're seeing over here is the AI Canvas product. So I'm going to go ahead, kick this off by starting up a new board over here, right? As soon as I spin up the new board, what you're going to see is you're going to see an AI assistant on the left that uses natural language to be able to communicate with the canvas that's on the right. Now imagine there's typically, say that there's an outage of some sorts, right? Anytime there's an outage, what do most people do? They file a ticket, correct? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say, get details from a ServiceNow ticket. What you're about to see is that it systematically, what the assistant does, it seamlessly goes out, uses the deep network model to be able to go out and fetch the ticket from ServiceNow. Now inside of this ticket, it is going to describe exactly what the issue was, and I'm going to drag that and drop it in my canvas. Okay? The issue is specifically about an outage. There is a device in Chicago that's not working quite right, and we want to go into some details to understand exactly what the problem might be. Now, normally what people would do is they would go to each one of these different dashboards to understand exactly what the problem is and start to piece some of these things together. But instead of doing that, all I'm going to do with the canvas is I'm simply going to go over there to the chat bar at the bottom, and I'm going to say, go ahead, troubleshoot this ticket for me. As simple as that. At this point, you're going to see that the deep network model is going to kick in, and it's going to start thinking. It recognizes that there's a packet loss that's happening, and it's automatically is going to use generative UI to be able to start generating dashboards for you. So you'll notice that it said that there was a 42.7% packet loss. And then it automatically started plotting a graph for you that says that this is how the packet loss has been trending, right? And then it realizes it needs more information. So what it does at this point is it actually goes to a different data source. Instead of getting this information from the Meraki access points, it's going to start getting this information from other data sources like Thousand Eyes, which is another Cisco product. If you don't know about it, it's a very cool product, you should check it out, right? So with Thousand Eyes, what you notice is it instantly uses that information to be able to plot this out for you using generative UI. It tells you where the outage is. You know how long this would normally take? You would have to go to each one of these dashboards, you'll have to figure things out, you'll have to piece this information together, you got to copy, paste things, and do all of that stuff. We just simplified it. We brought it all together. The model is automatically using reasoning traces to be able to go out and fetch this information. Now, normally when you have this, you have to invite some more people, right? Multiplayer. This is what I said. Most of the troubleshooting is not a single player game, it's a multiplayer game. Which means you gotta go ahead and invite other people to the same board. Normally, today, you cut, copy, paste a lot of these things. You say, I'm gonna put this inside of my ticket, somebody has to look at that ticket, somebody has to come, go about fixing this. We simplified that. We made this really simple where you click a single button, and then to be able to invite somebody, and to be able to tell them what's exactly going on, you don't have to sit down and type an email or a Slack message or WebEx note. You simply click a button and you generate a summary, right? So what you're seeing over here is a full summary that has been generated of exactly the things that you have already done, and with a single click, you could just invite them to the board with that message. So now imagine that this person joins the board, they get to see exactly what you've done so far. Now if this person comes in and realizes that they need more information, right? And this information is not enough, they need to actually pull some more data about the application itself, because it's great that one person comes in and says that this might be the problem, but the other person might have a unique insight. So what I'm going to do over here is I'm simply going to say, hey, can you actually compare the application response to the outages and correlate to see exactly where this outage might be happening with respect to the application. Now, in this particular case, it might be the situation that that you need data from a different data source. It's not from the Meraki devices, it's not from the Thousand Eyes, but it might need this data from, say, Splunk. What the canvas does is it seamlessly goes to Splunk, pulls that information out, and gives you a widget that tells you exactly what that correlation looks like. This is the power of the platform, folks. When we talk about Cisco, what we bring together, when you hear about AI Factory, we're basically using all of these things to be able to bring those tokens together, right? The model is automatically helping you troubleshoot. It shows you exactly what the correlation looks like, and then you have the confirmation. You know exactly what you need to do. In fact, the assistant tells you what you should do in terms of the next steps. Nikhil was talking about bringing freshers on board. This is what happens when you have an assistant. It actually enables your freshers. Your folks that are fresh out of college, they don't need to know a lot of these things. The assistant helps them and guides them to be able to solve these problems a whole lot faster. So you'll notice here, it says that it's recommending the following set of actions. It says all you have to do is configure a quality of service policy, and that's going to resolve the issue that you're seeing over here, right? So the AI canvas is not just for showing you all of the things that's going wrong, but you can actually go out and take actions as well. So what you're going to see over here is that the model is going to go ahead and apply the quality of service policy. It's thinking about where to apply that quality of service policy. You can see the thinking process, the step-by-step process, and then it goes ahead, takes an action. So right here, with a simple click, I'm going to drag and drop this back here. You will notice that it has actually taken an action, and not just taking an action. What's really cool about this is it actually allows the humans to be able to revert the change, which means there's always a human in the loop. This is why team sport is important. Not only are you working with other team members, the agents and humans can now work together to be able to debug and troubleshoot. This is extremely powerful, folks. This allows you to be able to now start doing things that you've never been able to do before, right? And the last but not the least, once you have made a fix, what you want to be able to see is, hey, did all of these things work as expected? Am I now at a place where the problems that I had, have they gone away? All you have to go back in here and do is to say, hey, listen, I would like to be able to systematically see the updates. I want to see if these things actually fix the problem. It is going to go back and it's going to start monitoring all of that application performance, and it's going to come back and tell you what really happened. So, what did we do with the canvas? We seamlessly brought a ticket in. We troubleshot the ticket by not doing anything else other than just saying, hey, go ahead, troubleshoot this ticket. We were able to understand the cause. We were able to spin up an agent to be able to go out and automatically go fix it, and then also monitor how that fix improved things. You can see that the red line, which shows you that the application performance, it starts to go back up and the packet loss starts to drop down with a simple quality of service patch that we put in there. That's the demo, folks. What do you think about this? Is this cool? I told you I do this only for applause, so thank you. All right, I'm going to switch back to my slides over here in a second. So what you saw over here was the AI canvas, right? And the AI canvas is powered by that deep network model. You've got to switch my screen to my presentation. Or do I have to do it? All right. Let's see if I can. All right, there it is. So collaboration across multiple users, built on the foundation of a model that you have to go out and build. And that's part of the reason why you need that infrastructure that Tim was talking about, right? When you have to build those custom models, those models that are built with your data in mind, your network topology, it's fine-tuned for exactly what you have inside of your environment, you're going to need that infrastructure to build those models. And last but not the least, you want to start troubleshooting across your entire real estate seamlessly. Now, one of the things that's going to happen with what you just saw was there were a lot of agents going out and doing different things. There was an agent talking to Splunk, there was an agent talking to Meraki, there was an agent talking to Thousand Eyes, an agent talking to ServiceNow. All of these agents are going to start to make their way inside of your organization. So today your workforce comprises 100% of humans, right? What's going to happen is that you're going to start to see that over a period of time you're going to have AI agents cooperating with humans. You're going to see AI applications already doing that. You're going to start to see robots and humanoids start to make it into your workforce as well. If you didn't already know this, there's a company out of China that has started shipping humanoids. They shipped over 500,000 units in just the past year. And these humanoids are pretty cool. They can actually do Kung Fu. If you go search for Kung Fu robots, you're going to check this out. This is extremely impressive. And these robots are powered by these large language models inside of them. When Tim talked about physical AI, that's exactly what he meant. You're going to start to see robots that are powered by these models. Now, when you start to add AI into your stack, you're fundamentally bringing non-determinism into the stack. You all tried out using ChatGPT, so you know this for a fact, that if you try the same question multiple times, each time the answer is going to be a little bit different, right? It's not exactly the same. AI is not deterministic. It's non-determinism baked into it. But when you have non-determinism, you're introducing a new class of risks and requirements that show up at an unprecedented scale. Every single one of your team members is downloading models out of Hugging Face. They're running that inside of your environment. When that happens, you're going to start to see a brand new set of risks. And this is going to get even far worse with agents, right? I think it was Satya that had mentioned in his keynote a while ago that there are going to be billions of agents within the next 5 years. I think it's going to be a lot sooner. I think you're going to see a lot more agents popping up. You know, a lot of times we go into customer environments and we discover that they weren't even aware that their teams had deployed these agents to be able to do a lot of interesting tasks. Now, when you start to think about AI security, you got to start thinking about it in two aspects. The first aspect is AI safety, and the second one is security. Now, what do we mean by safety? Well, we're talking about hallucinations. I know I'm sure you all have heard of hallucinations, right? Models sometimes give you a response that don't quite make sense. Sometimes they have toxicity inside of them. You've heard the news items about, models, very popular model labs, starting to, spit out different things that they shouldn't. Sometimes it's hate speech. Sometimes it's self-harm. A lot of these things require alignment of the models. And that's typically typically safety, right? And model labs are working pretty hard on making sure that the models are safe and aligned. But the flip side of that is security. A lot of the attackers are attacking these models to be able to make these models do very unexpected things. I'll give you a quick example. There are attacks called prompt injection attacks. If you have, if you're familiar with security paradigms of, cross-site scripting, you know that people have mechanisms of being able to inject something inside of inside of an application to make it do something very different things, right? Have some bizarre behaviors. Prompt injection is a very similar type of attack, where they go ahead and say, hey, can you, you're basically putting these instructions into your prompt that says, behave completely differently. Override the system prompt. And these things cause the model to perform really bizarrely. Somebody knocking up there. It feels like, I need to wind up fast, The interesting thing about safety and security is you got to start thinking about how do you apply this inside of your own context. If you are building applications, if you are creating AI applications and agents inside of your infrastructure, you're going to go through a journey. This is something that we've seen our customers do. The very first thing that they do is, they start out with discovery. How many of AI applications and agents are running inside of my infrastructure? That's the first question that a lot of practitioners like yourself are trying to answer. Once you understand what's going on, the next step is to be able to validate these models, to make sure that there are no vulnerabilities that exist inside of these models. And then once you understand and discover what those vulnerabilities are, you go about trying to enforce protection and guardrails, right? So at Cisco, what we did was we launched a product called AI Defense. And what this product does is it actually takes you through the journey in a step-by-step way. It gives you the ability to understand what kind of AI applications are being deployed. It goes into helping you understand what the supply chain vulnerabilities look like. And then it goes into the validation part of it, where it tells you exactly what's going on, what are the gaps in your model before you could go out and protect it. Now, I think we've set a theme over here, right? You like watching demos more than you like watching slides. Fair? So let me show you a demo for this one as well. I'm going to switch back. Give me 1 second. And I want to show you exactly how this all comes together. But remember, you got to applaud at the end of the demo. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. All right, I'm going to switch again, so if you don't mind. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm setting a beat at this point in time. That's good. All right, I'm ready. You could just go ahead and share my mirrored screen at this point. All right, so what you're seeing over here on the screen is basically the AI Defense dashboard. It's baked inside of what's called the Cisco Security Cloud Control. This is the single place where you start to see all of Cisco's security capabilities start to come together. Now, when you land at the dashboard for AI Defense, you're going to start to see automatically all of these things, right? You're going to see all of the applications that we're monitoring. You're going to see all of the agents and assistants that are actively running inside of the infrastructure. You're also going to start to see the models that are being deployed inside of your environment, and all of the users that are accessing these AI applications inside of your environment. So if you remember, the first thing that I said was you're going to get to see the visibility part, right? And that's what we're showcasing first. Hey, let me tell you exactly what's happening with respect to AI inside of your infrastructure. Now, the next thing that you'll notice is, you want to, once you have an understanding of that, you want to be able to look at all of the applications. You can easily just, at the click of a button, understand whether it is connecting using an API endpoint or it's connecting using a gateway. And more importantly, you can now go ahead and validate for each and every single one of those applications that are running inside of your environment. You could run a validation test that goes through the details of exactly what's happening inside of the model. So I'm going to pick a model here called the Mistral model, right? You will notice that the Mistral model, when we scan it, about 711 attacks successfully passed through the model. What does that mean? That means that the model is fundamentally vulnerable against a lot of these attacks when you start just using them as is. So in this particular case, you'll notice that about most of the attacks that passed successfully are violence and unsafe actions that you can get the model to talk about. That's not cool, right? I'll give you an example. Here's an attack that passed. You could get this model to give you detailed instructions on how to build a bomb. Now imagine if you are an enterprise and you are serving your customers and your customers and you're building AI applications for your customers, you are liable for that AI application to not give step-by-step instructions on how to build a bomb. You got to make sure that when you're shipping those applications, they are fundamentally protected, right? And the way you do that is by validating first that the models that you're using don't have these vulnerabilities. And if they do, what do you do about them? The next thing that you do is you go ahead and configure the policies to be able to protect your applications against those types of attacks. And that's what this does. You now have the ability to hop in here and provide a very clear policy to say, I want to block this particular thing from prompt injection attacks. I want to block this from safety and security guardrails. I'm going to pick another one. That one didn't have a lot of the examples. There you go. So you'll notice here that there are PII and PCI guardrails in place. It's going to make sure that your application's not accidentally leaking all of this data. And it has safety guardrails as well, against hate speech, against profanity, all of those things you can configure over here. And then when you finally hop back into your events, you can see at runtime, you can see exactly what's going on. Every single policy, every single prompt, every single request and response, you can now start to see it. You will be able to see exactly what was blocked. And on top of that, we're mapping each and every single one of these into frameworks. From an audit and compliance perspective, you're going to have to make sure that these map against the MITRE tool framework, the Atlas framework, the OWASP frameworks. We take care of that for you. So right out of the box, your AI applications now start to become compliant when you deploy AI defense. Now I'm going to hop back to before I go to my demo, before I wrap up my demo, this is extremely powerful, right? I think what you saw over here was we were able to successfully show you that you can launch your applications, you can validate these models that you're launching these applications with, you get the complete visibility of all of the vulnerabilities, and then you can seamlessly deploy guardrails to be able to block these things. So that's AI defense for you. So if you are looking to use AI applications, if you're looking to build, about 1/4 of you raised your hands, please spend the time at the demo booths. You're going to see our teams walking you through exactly how this all comes together. So if you don't mind, I'm going to just switch back right now. Folks, come on. I said applause, as I wrap up a demo. The thing that I want to just double click over here as I wrap things up, and I've got about, my clock's ticking over here. You're going to see that you're going to have to perform, AI safety and AI security every single step of the way, right? You're going to have to do this when you start your development process. You're going to have to, as soon as you start building your AI application, you got to make sure that you're validating it. And then once you do that, you're going to have to check for vulnerabilities. And then you're going to move it into production. When you move your AI application into production, you want to make sure that you are enforcing these guardrails at runtime. But the thing is that your job's not over. You're going to constantly fine-tune these models. You're going to constantly update these models to be able to do different things, right? The models are going to learn based on how the users are interacting with it, and which means you're going to have to run those security scans all over again, because anytime you do a fine-tune, you're changing the model itself. The models are not going to stay static. So which means you're constantly making sure that your applications stay secure. Now, one of the challenges that we have is, you don't want to, some of you might be here from a regulated industry. How many of you are here from either banking, from a financial, or from healthcare? Raise your hands if your data is regulated in any shape or form. About half the room. So it's really important for folks like yourself that your data, is precious and it follows and adheres to all of the residency requirements, right? You don't want your data to be going out to the cloud, to an inference server that is running somewhere that you do not control. So which means it becomes important for you to be able to deploy AI defense in different modes, and that's what we have here. You've got 3 different ways that you can use the AI defense. You can use it in the SaaS mode, where you're bringing up a simple application. Guess what? You could easily connect it inside of your Amazon or Azure or Google Cloud environments. You could deploy it in a hybrid mode, where you have your control plane in the cloud, but you have your data plane sitting right next to where your data is at. So you don't have to jump through a lot of compliance hoops. As of today, AI defense is available in hybrid mode, and that's pretty cool. The last mode that I'm going to talk about is the private cloud deployment. You heard Tim talk about AI pods. Now with the AI pod, you're going to be able to generate those tokens that we saw with the NVIDIA demo. Those tokens of intelligence are going to start to be generated by that AI pod, right? And with AI defense, we're making sure that that data, those tokens that are being generated, are inherently, by default, secure. So from a deployment model perspective, and I'm not going to drain the architectural slides, find me if you need to understand this a little bit more. As practitioners, I believe you care about how these can be deployed. We have detailed architectural specs that help you deploy this in a seamless fashion, right? Whether it's a SaaS mode, whether it's a hybrid mode, or whether it is getting deployed inside of a private cloud like an AI pod. We know exactly how to do this. Guess what? Because as Cisco, we're great as plumbers. We know exactly how to do this for you. So reach out to us, talk to us. We're more than happy to walk you through each one of these deployment modes. The last thing I want to leave you with before I wrap up here is, please understand that this wave is here. This wave is now. A lot of you all might think that, these AI applications are going to take, many, many months for it to become real. It's not true. And it's moving at a pace that is just absolutely unbelievable. So spend a little bit of time, like I said, go back, try some of these coding tools, and start trying to jailbreak these models. You'll have a fascinating time trying to get these models to do things that they're not supposed to. I'll give you a quick example. If you were to ask ChatGPT to write a screenplay, and you basically say, hey, I'm writing a screenplay, I want you to come up with a way that I can, that Brad Pitt is going to build a bomb, and he's going to do something. ChatGPT will break it down for you. At that point, you'll realize you've jailbroken the model, because these models are not supposed to help you do bad things, right? What we're going to start to see is attackers are going to come up with really amazing ways of being able to leverage AI to be able to start attacking, your infrastructure. You're going to need to inherently secure. You're going to need AI to be able to fight against AI. And that's really what we're starting to do with AI defense. Those guardrails are not static. Those guardrails are constantly learning how people are going to use your AI applications, and we're going to use AI to be able to fight AI. We're building these custom models. In fact, we're partnering with some of the largest AI startups, like Scale AI. We're one of the largest investors in companies like Cohere, which is a foundation model company, Mistral, and Anthropic. And we actually have one of the chief product officers of OpenAI as one of our board members. So at Cisco, we're seeing a lot of these evolution that's happening with respect to AI, and we have a seat at the table. And we're making sure that we're securing, how you use AI from every single step of the way. That's all I had, folks. So please enjoy the demos. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience. I really appreciate you all.